We're going to start, we're going to tie a March Brown wet. This is a fly that was developed as sort of a combination between the Royal Coachman wet and a traditional March Brown wet and a dark Cahill, sort of a combination of all. It's got golden pheasant tippet tail, hare's ear body, and wood duck wing. So all three great qualities in a fly for spring fishing, whether you combine them all or use them as separate as those other flies like the Coachman and soft tackle and things do. But I'm going to start my thread mid shank and work it back to just at the bend of the hook. If I drew a line straight up from the barb to the shank, that's where I want to start my tail. I'm going to tear off some golden pheasant tippets, and this has great definition between the black and the orange. I'm trying to maintain that, so sometimes I'll hold the tips in the end and just so they hold together, and then I'll cut it from near the stem, and then I've got them all together. I want that tail about the length of the hook shank, and I'm going to tie that in and wrap all the way up on the body to maintain a uniform mass on the hook shank. Now when I'm up here by the eye, I can go ahead and tie in a copper wire rib and tie it all the way back to the tail. And I'm going to use that rib to go over the body to add a little segmentation. Now I'm back to the tail. I'm back to the same position, straight up from the barb. And now I'm going to add some hare's ear or possum dubbing. And you can use wax on your thread or not. It's a fly that's going to sink because of its natural materials to some degree, so it doesn't really matter if you use wax or not. Create your dubbing noodle, slightly tapered, thin at the start and thicker as I go up the hook shank. I'm going to work that from the tail on up. And I'll put some motion on this fly when I'm fishing it, actually, kind of a lift of the rod tip and a drop of the rod tip at times makes this fish a little better. I think that tail is a little bit of a hot spot. They can see that. I'm going to work that up to near the eye, and I think that's enough. I'm going to be sure to leave a little room to do your hackle and your wing, or it's going to get real crowded up front. So that's my body. I'm going to run the wire through it now. And this hook is a little short. It's a 3769 TMC, and we're doing them pretty big here. This is like a 10, but I'd really rather this was a 12 or a 14. Either the 3761 or the 3769 are fine. So there's the copper wire rib. Cut that out of there. Now I'm going to do a soft tackle. This is from a hen saddle. It's very soft fibers. This is actually kind of a grizzly that was dyed brown, really nice, but all brown would be fine. Brown partridge would be fine. A soft material. That's what the feather looks like when I pull it off the cape. I want that hackle to be roughly back to the point. So when I roll that over to test length, I want that to come, just about back to the point. If you run that hackle way too long back over to beyond the hook itself, the proportions look a little off. So relatively short hackle. I like to pull the fluff from the rear of the feather, tie in by the tip, so I'll hold the tip and expose that, tie that little bit of tip in at just in front of the body. Because this is soft, it doesn't have to necessarily be right on top. I can work with it, brushing it back, forcing those fibers back, and I'm not looking for a whole bunch of wraps. I mean, 3 or 4 would be a lot, and if those fibers don't work with you, just force them back there. So a few wraps, and they get a little wild at times, but that's all right. Tie that off. Cut those fibers off, and now I've got stuff going everywhere. But what I can do now is get in front of everything and pull all that back. And in a traditional wet fly style, I'm going to develop that head a little bit. This will help me. And that's going to pin everything back, and that's going to kind of correct all the errors that I had with that unwieldy hen saddle. Now you can use Mallard flank, dyed wood duck gold. You can use your buddy's wood duck feathers that he brought you, or you can, wood duck sometimes hard to come by. A couple different ways to do this. You know, the quick way is to take this feather and just expose most of the tip, pull it down, and that's my clump that's going to go over the top for the wing. A bit wasteful, you can, in that respect, you can also just divide that and take one side of the feather to get two wings out of it. Like that. I'm gonna, because I have a whole bag of this wood duck somebody brought me. I'm gonna use this feather, and what I like about this feather is it was cupped on the bird's body at one point naturally. I'm gonna play with that and use that for my fly, and use the natural curve of the feather to go with the natural curve of the bug. So I'm gonna use that curve downside to my advantage. I want this to go right down to the bend at the end of the hook in that clump, loose wrap on top. And this stuff is really easy to tie compared to deer hair or something. And that's my wing, and that's right on top. The head is getting pretty big, but you know, in traditional wet fly terms, that's okay. Cut that off, develop that head a little more, and that'll help it sink and dive. A little whip finish, and I'll probably use head cement for this. Because that head is getting a little bit big. And that's your March Brown wet. Killer spring fly. Fish it down and across, wet fly style. Attach a posse bugger up from it about 4 feet. That'll dive it down in higher water, kill them. March Brown wet.